Hey guys, Kier from JoBlo here, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a warning that today's video is gonna be a bit of a tangent, as I did not like the movie that we're covering. Normally I'd try to find like a mix of objective information or behind the scenes facts that I can kind of use to buffer out some of my more negative opinions, but today I think the frustration really just got the better of me. Nevertheless, should be a pretty entertaining video, so enjoy. Guys, I just watched 2012's Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, and I don't know what anything is anymore.
That's weird.
This movie is the follow-up film to Ghost Rider, which we recently covered here on the show. It stars Nicolas Cage as the titular anti-hero, and this time around we also see the likes of Idris Elba, Johnny Whitworth, and Christopher Lambert in the mix. This film follows Johnny Blaze, who is living in hiding while he tries to contain the spirit within him. But when Johnny is offered a deal to rid himself of Mephisto's curse once and for all, he is brought out of the shadows to unleash hell on wrongdoers and the evil lineup of mystical villains that await him.
Does it? It looks like it does.
You guys, I honestly don't know where to begin. This movie was a lot of things. There was some really good aspects, some surprisingly great aspects, and a large share of it that runs the spectrum from bad to downright bizarre.
Hey, what if you have to pee while you're on fire?
That's weird.
Normally on this show, we would start at the beginning of the movie and work our way through what works and what doesn't along the way. But today, true believers, I think it's best if we just categorize and summarize. In terms of trying to iron out my thoughts on what we're watching today, let's just cover the basic plot of the movie and then jump straight into what was good and what left me very, very, very annoyed.
So get off my ass, because I'd say I'm ahead of schedule.
Above all, I think today's goal is just for me to sort out my opinion on this wild-ass movie and see how it holds up against the standards of today's blockbuster cinema. So let's get into it on Marvel Revisited. So, Spirit of Vengeance picks up sometime after the end of the first movie. If you haven't seen my review of the first Ghost Rider, I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. But overall, I had an interesting experience with Nic Cage's take on the character. This movie sort of retcons the path that Johnny was on at the ending of the first one as well, which sucks, with Johnny choosing to own the Ghost Rider power and use it to bring criminals to justice at the end of the first one, and now he's just living in a shed and trying to avoid letting the Rider take over. Why would we want a Ghost Rider movie about that?
There's no reason.
There are other changes to the character that we're gonna talk about, but I'll save those for my incoming rant. Johnny is then visited by Moreau, a drunken monk who seeks Johnny's help with a looming threat. In exchange for Johnny's help, Moreau offers to give Johnny his soul back and rid him of the Rider's curse. Johnny, of course, is no stranger to making deals, as that's how he got himself into this mess to begin with, and the movie does not let you forget that because they talk about it a lot of times.
So we make a deal. You know about making deals, don't you, Johnny?
So, he takes the deal and agrees to go on the mission to help Moreau find a woman and her child, and protect them from an evil spirit who aims to possess the child's body and exact his plan to do something. I honestly don't know.
What the hell was that?
Everyone's name sounds the same, and the bad guy's motivations are all muddled and fucked up, but along the journey, we're in for some fiery action, soul-sucking combat, and Marvel Easter eggs from the deepest cuts of Ghost Rider lore. Just kidding, there's almost none of that.
Damn.
So, without further ado, let me get into the specifics of what in the hell this thing is. And in order to do that, I think it only makes sense to simplify it down to things I liked, things I didn't like, and some things that I'm smack in the middle on. I think we should start with the shortest list, the positives.
We gotta move fast.
First off, the overall direction and editing of this movie are not good. I need to say that before saying that there is one exception, and it's the most important one. The Ghost Rider stuff actually looks pretty great. The special effects in the first Ghost Rider film were surprisingly good. The flames on the skull, the demonized bike, the abilities on display, they were all generally impressive for the time. This movie's visual effects are also pretty good, but only when Ghost Rider is on screen, and only some of the time. See, the iconic transformation scene from the last movie was really a visual feat that helped sell the idea of a movie where its main character being covered in fire is most of the movie. But in this one, even though some of these shots are very tight and the CGI is rendered extremely well, that's because Ghost Rider is only in the movie for a small chunk of it. We're gonna get to that. I also think that this movie succeeds in fueling Cage's reputation for unhinged acting performances. It's for all the wrong reasons, but I did enjoy this clip.
You're a bad man. And this thing, the writer, he feeds on bad men and he's hungry.
Unfortunately, folks, that's where the specific positives of this movie end for me. Now, listen, as I said, I usually look for some redeeming information that I can find to kind of help make up for some of the stuff that didn't work for me and make it more excusable, but honestly, through my research, it doesn't look like there's any disadvantage that they were at during the production that would excuse such a shitty movie.
Cheer up, my man. Soon, you will be free.
See, despite being campy, kinetically edited, and generally high octane, the first Ghost Rider film at least owned its weirdness and turned it up to 11. I mean, we had Nicolas Cage eating red and yellow Mike and Ikes out of a martini glass. But now, we just get a less exciting Johnny Blaze with none of the eccentric charm that he had before. Now, Johnny is a stoic and slow shell of a hero who can't even get it up for the fans and turn into the Ghost Rider. Like I said, a huge negative with this movie is that Ghost Rider is barely written into the plot. It feels like the script for this movie was originally written as like a Blade TV series finale that ended up getting scrapped, only to be revived and reassigned to Ghost Rider years later. In terms of the story, I have nothing much to say other than I didn't fucking get it, and I don't think that the crew behind the film did either.
That's so weird.
This power that we have comes from a dark place, but it's not who we are.
Kerrigan was a gun runner, a drug dealer, a mercenary.
That's gross.
I could feel him before. I could sense him, and then...
My brothers are dead, as should I be, if not for the intervention of God.
The movie really plays more like a side quest in a video game, with Johnny being forced on multiple missions spread across the runtime, which ultimately lead to nowhere. The big problem is that the story sets up Johnny for an ultimate ending kind of a thing. The only thing that brings him out of his miserable existence is the idea that he could complete one final mission and go back to life without the curse. Not only does that completely undermine his arc from the last film, but they don't even pay it off. The movie ends with him once again keeping his power as the Ghost Rider and using it for good.
The writer was an angel that went crazy.
So we took another 90-minute adventure with a boring version of the character just to end up where we already were? What the fuck?
Okay.
The characters and performances in this film are also much more egregious than the previous one. Fans of the show and people who know me know that I adore Nicolas Cage, and I'm a real champion for his career, and not in an ironic way. I love the dude and I respect his work greatly, but nobody else in this movie even tried. I cannot be convinced otherwise. Look at the way this woman falls down after her son almost literally goes to hell.
That's weird.
Cage hams it up a little bit, but he doesn't bring the same charm as I would have liked to see. But the little bit that he gives could literally be the only thing that kept this movie from boring me to sleep. But perhaps the most annoying thing about this film is the confusing tone.
I know that it's a little awkward.
Look, this movie came out in 2012, so it's very possible that the original cut of this movie was a bit darker and more interesting, but the way this movie is edited is seriously fucked up. We'll go from a scene of a child being kidnapped by demons and nearly taken from his mother, then cut directly to Nicolas Cage eating tacos and talking to a kid about how hot his mom is.
I mean, after everything you've
Dude.
been through.
You're way cooler than the guy she usually hangs out with.
I do not know what I'm supposed to feel. Also, for comic book readers out there, does Ghost Rider quip? I read some Ghost Rider a few months back as research on the first film, and I didn't see much comedy in any of those books. But the short time that Ghost Rider is on screen in this movie is largely dedicated to him making puns and Marvel-level quips. Call me crazy if you must, but I do not like that. Also, the semi-romantic role, but also mostly supporting homie, is Nadia, played by Violante Placido. Her character is pretty standard and flat, and you know that we at JoBlo love movies and all who come together to make them. But Violante's performance in this movie is so cringe.
Does the devil own you? Answer me!
The kid, Danny, he's your son?
Speaking of cringe, those little animated exposition dumps that happen in this movie with Cage narrating as Johnny Blaze are visually kind of cool, but my lord are they dull and oh so outdated, and there is so much of it. And the narration is so main character that it makes me look away. I can't do it.
I suck out their souls. And you don't want to be around when that happens.
And the last thing on my dislike list is this movie's villains. The movie's villains are somehow even more boring than the last movie. We've got a forgettable, vaguely dangerous mafioso called Ray, played by Johnny Whitworth, and we've also got a boring Gore the God Butcher knockoff called Methodius. And whatever the fuck this guy is doing.
Human. It's dying.
I'm sorry, folks. It's difficult for me to explain why this movie is so confusing because there's really nothing happening. It's just people talking about shit that also doesn't make sense. And this movie's final battle... Let's talk about this movie's final battle. The thing about superhero movies is that they are sometimes silly. Some movies know how to make that work in their favor, like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. But other movies either play it too straight or too silly, and you end up with something like this movie. But in both cases, one thing that remains true of any superhero movie is that you need to nail the final battle scene. The ending confrontation gives us Johnny's third and final transformation into the Ghost Rider. That's right. He's Ghost Rider 3 times. It's mostly a chase scene with demonized vehicles and some cool visuals, but it also is a serious wet napkin of an ending. After the chase, the rider catches up to his enemy and comes face to face with pure evil, and then Johnny just screams in his face and sends him to hell in the span of like 5 seconds. See, here's part of the issue. They spend less time showing the hero defeating the villain than they spend on a shot of Ghost Rider screaming into the sky. It's so unsatisfying that I keep watching it hoping to finally understand what the hell is going on. It's kind of like, you know, when you go to the fridge when you're hungry but there's no food in the fridge, so you just keep going back every minute or two to see if there's something you missed? That's kind of what it feels like to watch this movie.
Peace, brother.
Oy, this movie sucks. But the question is it worse than Madam Web? No.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Oh, and as for things I'm mixed on, I don't know. What's left? The design of the skull looked better in this movie than the last one, but honestly, the rest of the costume kind of looked like shit. Okay, I think I've said it all now.
So, that happened.
Friend and producer of the show, Chris Bumbray, interviewed Cage and recalls him telling us that he loves the movie and that he enjoyed making it. And you know what? Who are we to argue?
You have any idea what Mark and Brian did for the amount of money they did that?
Well, I'm sure you guys.
Below the line, we're talking about.
Yeah.
Marvel doesn't even get out of bed with that kind of dollars. Okay, those kind of dollars, and they rocked it. They did something that was original. It was like adventuresome. It moved. It was a roller coaster, and they did it below the line. I don't even want to tell you what it was.
Well, Nick, I guess we can all agree to disagree on that one. 3 out of 10 for Ghost Rider 2. I would say, unless you're desperate for a Nic Cage movie that you haven't seen, just look elsewhere. This one will not do it for you.
That's weird.
Hey everybody, thanks again for watching this video. If you guys like this kind of more casual and looser style for the videos, do me a favor and let me know. If you made it this far in the video, you might as well leave a comment. I like popping in on camera every once in a while, especially for videos like this, because, I don't know, it's, you know, a real opinion that I have, and I was very passionate about it, and I think sometimes it's nice to put a face to the opinion. So, anyway, if you liked it, make sure you comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, all of that. Okay, love you, bye!